The heavy silence that settled into the hospital walls throughout the night felt like a warning that a much bigger truth was slowly approaching. Sometimes people don't realize they are standing in the middle of a life-changing moment, but fate quietly pushes them closer and closer to the edge of a cliff. And when they finally reach that edge, everyone is left facing the same question. When the truth finally comes out, who will still be standing? Because now it wasn't only the echo of a gunshot that lingered in the air, but the sound of secrets that had been hidden for years, waiting to surface. Could the truth that might be revealed tonight be powerful enough to turn everyone against each other? In the hospital corridor, everyone was still under the shock of what had happened just minutes earlier. The news that Kadir's heart had started beating again had brought a brief sense of relief, but no one truly felt calm. Because now the same question was circling through everyone's mind. If the person seen on the security camera was really Jem, what was he doing near the mansion that night? Daikel leaned against the wall, her eyes still locked on the door of the intensive care unit. Inside her was a fear she couldn't even describe. For the first time in her life, she felt trapped in a situation completely beyond her control. Erkan slowly walked toward her. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Daikel gave a small nod, but she didn't answer. After a moment she spoke in a low voice. "Everything is getting more complicated." Erkan took a deep breath. "Yes," he said. Then he lowered his gaze. "But the truth will come out." Daikel looked at him. "The truth doesn't always save people, Erkan. Sometimes it only hurts them more." Do you think Daikel is right? Does the truth always bring freedom, or can it sometimes bring even greater pain? At that moment, the police officer returned to the corridor. "We have new information," he announced. Everyone turned toward him immediately. The officer spoke with a serious expression. Jem's phone signal was last detected near the mansion. Erkan frowned. "So he's still in the city?" The officer nodded. "Yes. But we don't know where he is right now." A wave of tension spread through the corridor. Because everyone was now thinking the same thing. Why was Jem running? Would an innocent person run away like that? Daikel spoke slowly. "Jem cared about Kadir." Erkan looked at her carefully. "Sometimes the people closest to us hide the biggest secrets." His words sent a chill through Daikel. For a moment, a terrifying possibility crossed her mind. What if Jem really had been there that night? What if he had been the one who fired the gun? But why? The answers to those questions were still hidden in darkness. Just then the door to the intensive care unit opened again. The doctor stepped out. "Furman has regained consciousness," he said. Daikel stood up immediately. "Can I talk to him?" The doctor nodded. Just for a moment. When Daikel entered the room, her heart was pounding. Furman's face was pale, but his eyes were open. She stepped closer to the bed. "Furman." When Furman saw her, his eyes filled with emotion. "Daikel." Daikel kept her eyes locked on his. "You said there was someone else there." Furman slowly nodded. "Yes." "Who was it?" Furman remained silent for a few seconds before forcing the words out. "Jem." Daikel's heart began racing. "What?" Furman struggled to breathe. "While we were arguing, he was behind us." Daikel felt completely confused. "What about the gun?" Furman slowly closed his eyes, as if gathering strength before revealing the rest of the truth. "I didn't fire the gun." Those words instantly changed the atmosphere inside the room. "Do you think Furman was really telling the truth?" Daikel immediately asked. "Then who fired the gun?" Furman opened his eyes. His lips trembled before he forced the word out. "Jem." For a moment, it felt as if time had stopped. Daikel froze in place. But just then the monitor beside the bed began to beat faster, and the doctor rushed into the room. "That's enough. The patient needs to rest," he said firmly. Daikel was gently guided back into the corridor. Erkan quickly stepped beside her. "What did he say?" Daikel's voice shook as she answered. "He said Jem fired the gun." Erkan stood silent for several seconds. "Is that even possible?" he asked quietly. Daikel slowly shook her head. "I don't know." Everyone waiting in the corridor was stunned, but the real shock had not arrived yet. At that moment the police officer's phone rang. He answered and listened carefully, and as he did, the expression on his face suddenly changed. "Gem has been found," he said. Everyone turned toward him at once. "Where?" someone asked. The officer replied heavily, "At the police station." Erkan frowned in confusion. Was he arrested? The officer shook his head. No, he paused for a second, then delivered the sentence that stunned everyone. He turned himself in. A deep silence fell over the corridor. Dykal whispered, "Why?" The officer shrugged slightly. He only said one thing. Everyone held their breath. What did he say? The officer spoke slowly. "I'm guilty." Those words hit everyone like an explosion. But was it really the truth? Do you think Gem was actually guilty? Or was he taking the blame to protect someone else? And the most important question of all, if Gem really fired the gun, why? Because sometimes a confession doesn't reveal the truth. Sometimes it only opens the door to even deeper secrets. And now the story was about to move into a far more dangerous path. As the first light of morning filtered through the large windows of the hospital, the heavy silence from the night still seemed to linger in the cold corridors. Some nights don't end even when the sun rises. The same question circled through everyone's mind. Had Gem truly confessed because he was guilty, or was his confession meant to hide a much bigger secret? And why would someone take responsibility for a crime they might not have committed? Would it be to protect someone they love, or because of a far deeper reason? Dykal stood motionless in the middle of the corridor. The officer's words kept echoing in her mind. Gem turned himself in. For a moment her heart had almost stopped. Because Gem wasn't just Kadir's cousin. He was someone who had grown up with them, someone who had sat at the same family table for years. The idea that he could do something like this felt impossible. Erkan stepped closer. "We need to go to the police station," he said quietly. Dykal slowly lifted her head. "I need to talk to him." Erkan frowned. "Now?" Dykal's voice was firm. "Yes. Because if Gem is really taking the blame, there must be a reason." Do you think Dykal is right? If someone isn't truly guilty, why would they confess like that? Just then Kadir's mother approached the intensive care door again. Her eyes were red from crying. "Did the doctor say anything?" she asked anxiously. Dykal gently shook her head. "For now, his condition is stable." The woman took a deep breath, but the worry on her face didn't fade. Dykal hesitated before adding, "They found Gem." The woman froze for a moment. "What do you mean they found him?" "He turned himself in to the police." The words changed the expression on the woman's face completely. "No." Her eyes widened in disbelief. Gem would never do something like that. Erkan watched her carefully. "How well do you really know him?" The woman answered immediately. "Gem has loved Kadir like a brother since they were children. He would be the last person in the world to harm him." That sentence sparked a thought in Erkan's mind. Because sometimes a person doesn't hurt the one they love, but they might sacrifice themselves to protect someone else. And now the question was even more dangerous. Who could Gem possibly be protecting? At that moment the police officer spoke again. "Gem is currently being questioned. If you want, we'll begin taking his official statement in a few minutes." Dykal took a deep breath. "I want to go," she said firmly. Erkan nodded. "I'm coming with you." Minutes later they were standing in front of the cold walls of the police station. It felt completely different from the hospital. In this place, emotions didn't matter, only facts did. But was the truth ever really that simple? Dykal and Erkan stood behind the glass window of the interrogation room. Gem sat at the table across from the officers. His face looked tired, but there was a strange calmness in his eyes. Could someone who was truly guilty look that calm? The officer started the recording. "Your name?" "Gem Arslan." "Did you carry out the shooting?" Gem answered without hesitation. "Yes." Dykal's chest tightened when she heard that. But the officer continued. "Why?" Gem stayed silent for a few seconds, then said something that surprised everyone. "Because I had no other choice." Erkan frowned. "What does that mean?" Gem lowered his eyes. When Furman pulled the gun, Kadir tried to stop him. The fight got out of control. I was there too. The officer quickly asked, then why did you fire the gun? Jem lifted his head. Because if I hadn't, someone would have died. His answer only made the situation more confusing. Was Jem really trying to save someone? Dykal couldn't hold back anymore. She opened the door and stepped inside. Jem. Jem raised his head, and when he saw her his expression softened for a moment. Dykal, her voice trembled. Did you really do it? Jem paused for a few seconds before slowly nodding. Yes. But when Dykal looked directly into his eyes, she noticed something strange. There was no fear there, only determination. Could someone who was truly guilty look like that? Dykal stepped closer. Jem, don't lie to me. Jem looked away. I'm not lying. But just then Erkan spoke. If you were the one who fired the gun, why didn't you run? Jem looked at him calmly. Because running is what guilty people do. His answer silenced everyone in the room. But the biggest question still remained unanswered. Why had Jem declared himself guilty? Just then the police officer's phone rang again. He answered and listened carefully, and suddenly his expression changed. What did you say? He asked into the phone. A heavy silence filled the room. The officer hung up and spoke slowly. That was the hospital. Dykal's heart started pounding. What happened? The officer took a deep breath. Furman has regained consciousness. Erkan immediately asked, what did he say? The officer hesitated for a moment before revealing the words that shocked everyone. He said the person who fired the gun was not Jem. For a moment it felt as if time had stopped inside the interrogation room. Dykal froze. Erkan looked at Jem in disbelief. Jem simply closed his eyes. So was the truth finally about to come out? If Jem wasn't guilty, then who had fired the gun? And the most terrifying question of all, why was everyone telling a different version of the story? Because sometimes the truth doesn't belong to just one person. Sometimes it's hidden within the secrets that many people are trying to protect.